You want to make this logo animation inspired by the Valorant intro and outro? Well, I'll teach you in this video. Alright, here's the animation I originally whipped up just to show as a preview here, but if I play it, it goes pretty quick, so if I just slowly go through it, you can see the logo stretches horizontally towards the middle, and it kind of inverts its colors and stretches vertically, and then goes out of frame, which is what I'm going to be showing you. So to get started, I want to make this video as short as possible so it's digestible. So just go to File, New Project, and then click New Composition, and 1080p, 30 frames, and I usually do 2 to 3 seconds, so I'll just make mine 3 seconds. Background color is black. Hit OK. Now you got your new composition. So just go to the Layers panel on the bottom left here. Right click, New, Solid, and I'm just going to choose a background color. I'm going to choose maybe dull blue. Hit OK. OK. Now I have a solid. So what I'm going to do next is drag in my logo. I have it already here. So just make sure your logo is in AI format, which is straight from Illustrator. If it's not, do it anyways. Get an AI format version of your logo. Now that's in After Effects, all I'm going to do is right click the name of my logo, go up to create shape from vector layer. Now it's going to hide my original layer and create a new one where basically my logo is made up of entirely of anchor points. So if I just click an anchor point, I can drag it anywhere I want. So that's going to be how we're going to achieve our stretch effect. So next thing you want to do is hit Control R, and it's going to bring in these rulers, and you're just going to click the ruler and drag in this vertical line and just kind of eyeball where the center of your logo is. So I just chose here. So after that, all I'm going to do is click this little arrow here beside my layer. It's going to open up Contents, Group 1, and you're going to have these Path 1 and Path 2. You're just going to select both of them, open them, and click these stopwatches. And drag them to around wherever how fast you want it. I'm going to bring it to 10 frames. I'm going to go to the beginning of my timeline. And before I select my keyframes, I'm going to look and see if there are any keyframes along my vertical line where it's only one keyframe in the middle. There's not a keyframe on both sides. So I'll show you what I mean. So if I just take one side and I drag it and stretch it like what I'm going to do later, it kind of stretches it unsymmetrically. Like it's not symmetrical when you do this. So what I'm going to do to just a quick fix for this is when you go to the blue line along the middle, you'll get a little plus sign and that will add an anchor point. Just make sure they're a little bit away so you have room to select the one and not the other. I'm just going along any points that come across this line. There's only one anchor point. Alright, now that I have my anchor points all put down, I'm going to hold Alt and drag. And any anchor points that you missed, you can just hold Shift and click them if there's a little bit of them. Or if there's a ton of them, you can just hold Shift, Alt, and drag, and that'll add them to the selection. So now you have all your keyframes selected while making sure that you're at the beginning of your time frame here. You're going to drag and hold Shift and drag it to the outside of the canvas until you can't see like the most right part of your logo. And you're going to do the same thing for the left side. I'm going to hold Alt. It's going to select all the keyframes, and I'm going to hold Shift and drag one of the anchor points. Now my logo is stretched completely off the screen, and if I play this correctly, my logo should start from outside and come towards the middle. Now it is really choppy, so what I'm going to do to kind of smoothen this out is I'm going to drag on my timeline and select all the keyframes. I'm going to hit F9 on my keyboard and go to the graph editor at the top of the layers here, click it, and you're going to have this little hill. If you don't have this hill, then you probably don't have it selected on the speed graph. So next thing on this hill, I'm going to select these little notches at the bottom. Once I drag and select them, I get these yellow lines. I'm going to drag them closer to the middle of the hill just to get this of a kind of a point at the top. You don't want to go drag it all the way, or it could look a bit unnatural. So now if I play it again, it's a lot smoother. Now I have my first kind of animation where the logo is coming in, but now I want it where it kind of stretches out vertically. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close this layer. I'm going to select all of them, and go to my timeline and drag it so it fits within the 10 frames, which is how long I made the keyframes. After this, it's transparent, so what I want to do is go to layers, right click, new, solid, and make this the color that I made my logo. So if I just want to go back here, new, solid. I'm going to take the eyedropper tool, select the color of my logo. Now I have a complete red background. I'm going to take this and trim the layer by just dragging it. I'm going to trim it so it doesn't cover my first 3 layers. Take the other ends so I can just make it a bit more shorter so it's more digestible. So what I'm going to do is go to my original logo layer. Should it still have the Illustrator logo as the thumbnail picture, I'm just going to press Control D and make sure I click where the eyeball should be. So on the most left, click it, drag it above the red solid. Now you might not see because it's the exact same color. So I'm going to go Effects and Presets. You just want to search up Fill and drag it on top. Now you're going to click the eyedropper, and I'm just going to select the background of the first scene I have, which you can just do by selecting the little thumbnail right here beside the dark solid, which is the first layer we created. Now our colors kind of invert, pretty much exactly how they do it in the Valorant videos. So we're going to do the same procedure. We're going to right click our logo, create shapes from vector layer. Now there are no anchor points right on the horizontal line that I need to worry about, but if there are, you can do it. This can be done on any logo or text if you want. And all I'm going to do is select the top. But before I do that, I want to lock my solid layer just to make sure I don't move it when I start dragging stuff around. So all you have to do is go to the red solid and your previous solid, and right below where you'll see this lock on the top, you just want to go down and click that square, and it'll lock that layer for you so you don't accidentally drag stuff around. So clicking the outline layer, hold Alt and select first you want to click the keyframe so all the anchors turn into these little squares. And just hold Alt and drag over top of them. Now you have them all selected. I'm going to make sure I go into contents first. Group 1, path 1, path 2. Select them both and drag them. Make sure they're at the beginning of my sequence and go to the end. You'll probably have to reselect your keyframes. Probably should have done them first, but whatever. So I'm just going to do the same thing. Actually, that doesn't look very good. So I'm going to select this bottom one just so it looks a bit better and it doesn't change any of the angles. Oops. Make sure all the keyframes are selected. And I'm going to drag them up so they're outside the frame. And I'm going to do Alt, do the bottom side of the horizontal line, and drag them out while holding Shift so they don't move. And there we go. We kind of have this logo kind of comes together and then separates. So do the same thing by smoothing them out. Select all the keyframes by dragging, hit F9, go to the graph editor, do the same thing with the little hill, select them both, and while holding Control, drag the yellow lines closer to the center so you got a pointier top, and then it should be a lot smoother. So I could stop the tutorial here, but I did add kind of a teal trail behind the logo, so I'll show you what I mean. So what I'm going to do is, while clicking both outlines, they should have a blue box. The timeline, they should be blue too. All I'm going to do is have them both selected by hitting Control D on both of them, or Control on both of them, and then hitting Control D. That should duplicate both the layers. And now what I want to do is take my effect and go to Fill and drag them to the bottom of both of these scenes. So you should have 4 of these outlines, and you want to drag them, and you want to drag the fill on both of the most bottom one for each kind of section. So I drag one on top of here, and I'm going to go to the bottom one here and drag another fill. So I do have multiple fills, so I want to make sure there is only one, so that those fills kind of don't stack on top of each other and don't cancel each other out. So I'm just going to change the color to a teal on both of them. And it's pretty simple. I'm just going to go to the timeline, drag the box back 2 frames. You can tell you hit a frame when it kind of locks. So I'm just going to go back 2 ticks kind of. And I'm going to make sure that these layers, because when the sequence ends, the layer still exists. So I'm just going to trim it by dragging this so all the layers line up with each other. Same thing with the first side. And this is the effect you get, which is really cool. It kind of trails it and does the same thing here. And that's basically it. Now, last thing I want to do, as you can see, the logo is still inside the frame, and what I would want to do is get rid of these black bars. So if your logo is still here, you'll want to do this. And this is kind of a lazy way of doing it, but you can mask it out if you want. But all I'm going to do is right click the layers, select new, make a new solid, and make it the exact same color as the background. I just eyedropper tool it. Okay, and now it is, make sure it is over top of the shape layer. And what I'm going to do is open up the transform by just clicking these arrows, and I'm going to make this, and I'm going to make sure that this little link here is gone. So just click the link, it'll disappear, and go to the last 100 on the scale and type in 0. So basically it is so flat that it's not visible, and I'm just going to hit the stopwatch and scale right where the end of my composition is. I'm going to give it a few frames. I'm going to go to the end of my composition and make the scale 100. So now as you can see, as soon as my logo kind of disappears, this box kind of covers it up, and then you should have just a blank red screen, and that is pretty much it. So if I just play through the animation, this is what we have. And that's pretty much it. So if you have any more questions, please join my Discord. You can ask me there, or join me live on Twitch. I'm usually live every day. You can ask me on there. All links are in the description. Thanks for watching. See you later.